All right, I'm going to pull us back a little bit from the wonderful text door that I opened.
Not typical of
oh my goodness, so much. I wish my husband was here.
It's like overhearing geeky theology.
I know, it's fantastic. And I want to step back a little bit in some of the practicalities. In all traditions, head covering is a part. What does that mean? Why is there head covering in the various forms that it exists within each of the religions, for men and for women? And is it only for at times of worship, throughout the culture? What is the role of head covering?
Oh, I think Christianity, it is absolutely about humility before God. Mm-hmm. No question. I mean, how many of you grew up, I grew up Catholic, and I definitely saw my grandmother cover her head when we went to church. No mm-hmm. question. You would not go into a church without a scarf, or they kind of look like doilies. I don't know, whatever those were. Mm-hmm. But certainly out of humility.
Humility.
For being in God's presence.
Isn't it ironic, the difference between how a Muslim woman who covers her head is perceived and a nun? Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do with the media. That has nothing to do with conditioning or engineering. So look, here's the thing. In our tradition, and Muslims loved being asked about their faith and not told about their faith. Mm. Like usually here's how an interfaith dialogue for me usually is this: walking out of Walmart, you guys, and then it's gone. You know, it's like, okay, well, we could have had an exchange.
That's called the interfaith monologue.
Yeah. I have those like 6 times a week. There are Muslim women that are here today that cover their heads. Ask a Muslim woman how she feels about her head covering, and if anyone forced it upon her, or if it was a choice that she made at some point in her life as a means of devotion and humility before God. And I guarantee you that you'll be surprised by the answer. So and I'm actually inviting you, all the sisters, I see a few sisters here, you're good with being asked about your hijab in the store, your hijab. Okay, good, you're all good with that. So you may ask them that question, don't ask me that question, and ask those sisters, because when they decided to cover their heads and why they decided to cover their heads. It is in this America, in 2018, hats off, literally, to the Muslim women in this country that insist on their Americanness and insist on their identity, because what they are doing is an act of resistance to bigotry, because they're insisting that there is no... That is an insistence that, no, I will be an accomplished woman, and whatever that accomplishment looks like, and I will insist on my religious identity. And it is just as oppressive to force a woman to take her head covering off than to force her to put it on. So when you see France and you see a woman on the beach, you know, who's wearing the burkini, God forbid a woman on the beach wearing a swimsuit that covers her entire body and her hair because she wants to enjoy the beach, but she also wants to abide by her religious obligations. And you've got police officers going to the beach and humiliating that woman and stripping her of her identifying cloth, and then doing that in the name of secularism and modernity and progress. That's the point. We need to look to it. We need to accuse our own lenses and our own constructs. And I'll let Muslim women speak for themselves as to why they chose to cover and what they feel about that obligation.
Humility and modesty.
Humility and modesty. A question.
The other thing I'd throw in is, because you can do, and I assume you could do it in other traditions also. Certainly in Judaism, you could, if you wanted to prejudge, you could look on a bus in Israel, and based on the kind of, whether it's woven, whether it's velvet, how big or how small, you could, like people who really know Israeli sociology could actually tell you a lot about a person, right? In other words, and again, it's a prejudgment, but there's head covering, and then it get, like, as we said from the very beginning, it's also sometimes used as a sociological marker.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's great.